All right, good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Seeing none, reading and confirmation of the minutes of the Council Planning Committee meeting held on May 5th, 2025 be approved. Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Wright-Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I have some opening remarks for the public meeting. The public meeting is being heard by the Council Planning Committee, and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The citizen appointees joining are Mr. John Beltutis, Mr. Tyler Fenton, Mr. Paul Jennings, and Ms. Sarita Van Dyke. They may ask questions and participate in the discussion to assist in recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. An important update regarding Bill 185, the right to appeal a planning decision is now further restricted. Appeals are limited to the applicant, the minister, approval authorities, public bodies, and specified persons who have made oral or written submissions prior to the adoption of the official plan amendment or zoning bylaw amendment. Specified persons are defined in the Planning Act and are made up of a limited list of entities, mainly consisting of impacted utility providers or telecommunication infrastructure providers. Therefore, it's crucial for those directly affected to make their submissions known during this public meeting. The Engineering and Development Services Department will consider comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments in analyzing the applications that are part of the public meeting tonight. For further information on how to provide comments to the City regarding an application from this public meeting, please email planning@belleville.ca. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Council Planning Committee's recommendations regarding today's applications are requested to leave their name and address on the appropriate notification sheet on the clipboard beside the podium. And with that, I'll move to the public meeting portion. 5.1, Notice of Public Meeting, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw 2024-100, 136 Townsend Road, Belleville, Ontario. File number is PLZBA 2022 50128. If staff could present the application, please.
Thank you, Chair. 136,000 Townsend Road is developed with a one-unit detached dwelling, several accessory buildings, and a barn, and is currently zoned Rural Zone and Environmental Protection Zone. On April 17th of this year, conditional consent approval was granted to create one new residential lot with approximately 1.06 hectares of lot area and 165 meters of lot frontage on Townsend Road. To fulfill a condition of consent, this application proposes to rezone the severed parcel from rural zone to rural residential zone. Additionally, a holding symbol is proposed on the retained lot, which would prevent development such as a house on the retained lot until a hydrogeological study has been completed to the satisfaction of the municipality. No new development on the property is proposed at this time, and currently no correspondence has been received by the public regarding this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this application? Yeah, if you'd like to come forward, just activate the microphone there with the button. If you could just state your name and any comments, the floor is yours.
My name is Mark Dunnan, owner of Donnandale Farms, and we have submitted this application, and we have nothing further to add other than what he's mentioned tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? No? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on the application? And a third time? Okay, seeing none. I have a resolution of the zoning amendment applications number PLZBA 2025-0128 be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee for consideration. Moved by Councillor Henderson, second by Councillor Brown. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 5.2, Notice of Public Meeting and Official Plan Amendment for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw 2024-100, 501 Harmony Road, Black Bear Ridge Village. File numbers are PLOZA 2025-0100 and PLOZA 2025-0101. If staff could present the application, please.
Thank you, Chair. The subject lands are approximately 370 hectares in size, have approximately 413 meters of frontage on Harmony Road, and are known primarily as 501 Harmony Road. The lands are subject to a Minister's Zoning Order, or MZO, whereby the province has granted approval for the owner to develop a community with up to 3,049 residential units, resort accommodations, a variety of supporting commercial and recreational uses, as well as open space and parkland areas featuring multi-use trails. Applications for amendments to the City of Belleville official plan and zoning bylaw were filed by the Pecuniary Group on behalf of Black Bear Ridge for the subject lands known as Black Bear Ridge Golf Course and Resort. This public meeting is being held to introduce and receive comments and public input regarding the following two applications. Number one, the official plan amendment application proposes to establish a comprehensive secondary plan for the subject lands. This will establish an overarching policy framework to become part of the city's official plan and guide the development that is already authorized under the MZO that was issued in 2022. And application number two, the zoning bylaw amendment, proposes to rezone several small pieces of land that were previously not covered by the MZO. This is a housekeeping amendment based on boundaries that have been refined through the applicant's various technical studies. The amendment will serve to round out the boundaries and ensure consistency in permitted land uses across the developable portions of the property. Together, the proposed amendments will advance the development of a master-planned golf resort community and provide opportunities for planning and guidance from the municipality. While these are important components of the development, there's still a great deal more technical work to be done, particularly in looking at how services will extend to the site and how traffic will be managed. A draft plan of subdivision application for Phase 1, located on the south portion of the site, has also been submitted and is currently under review. The draft plan process is not part of the public meeting pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act, but considerations raised during the public process may ultimately be addressed through conditions of draft approval. At this time, two comments have been received from members of the public. The first comment noted that some of the proposed lots may interfere with an existing well easement, and this has been referred to applicants for review and adjustment. The second comment expressed concern about the provision of public notice for the application, and staff has confirmed that the notice complies with the requirements of the Planning Act and is consistent with city practice.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the application?
Hi there, Mike Pettigrew with the Big Leary Group. I have the presentation on this computer. Is it pop up for staff?
Yeah, they'll help you there. There you go.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so thank you very much to Planning Committee, to the members of the public that are here, and to staff. Mike Pettigrew, I'm a partner with the Big Leary Group, and I'm here on behalf of our client, Alex Sharp, who is in the audience listening as well. Just for the benefit of everybody, it was a very good presentation already by Mr. Pynchon, so I will go through some of these slides quickly because it'll be a repeat of a lot of that information, but instead I'll add a little bit more detail to some of the items that Greg spoke about. Okay, so this is the area. So he spoke about the 370 hectares of land, and that's outlined there in red. The area that is in the light blue is the area that was subject of that MZO. So some of those pockets, as Mr. Pynchon mentioned, are not covered by the MZO. They are going to be covered by this OPA, and they're also going to be covered by portions of it towards the south in the zoning bylaw amendment. And there'll be more on that. I have some other images to show you where. But that's to give you the context. This OPA is going to cover everything, including the items that were not covered originally in that MZO. The majority of those areas that are not in there were actually environmental lands. So the rounding out that we're speaking of is part of the technical studies where there's areas that were not actually environmental. They were just high level covered in the official plan several years ago. But now we have a rounding out of those pockets. Okay, So the two applications, the official plan amendment is for a secondary plan, and that's really the bulk of what I'm going to talk about today. It's a structure plan, and it's meant to guide, as Mr. Pynchon mentioned, the development of this community for the next 20 to 30 years. And the zoning bylaw amendment part is just a small portion. So the MZO covers that area that's in red. I won't go through all that list of uses because Mr. Pynchon already mentioned it, but again, this is for residential, commercial, as well as a whole suite of recreational golf course related uses. Most of those golf course related uses are already on the site, and the golf course is staying, and that's part of the first phase of the development as well. In the official plan, there are two schedules. Schedule A, which already identified this area as a fully serviced resort area, and that's that purple outline. What's contained inside is now going to also be subject to this OPA and the structure plan. The reason why that's a fully serviced resort area is because as part of the MZO, these lands are going to be on municipal services. And so through the MZO and then following the MZO, we had 3 developer-led open houses. And at the open houses, I think I recognize many of the faces, so several people that are here in the audience were at those. And at the time, the services was a topic that was brought up. We have with staff and with the city's experts that they've retained for engineering, have looked at multiple different routes that would bring the services, water and sanitary, to this site. And those have all been evaluated, and those are going to come forward as part of a report from J.L. Richards that's a city-led report. And we've been involved and been advised of that report, and that will be coming forward to council, I believe, when this is coming forward for approval. So I just wanted to point out that we have had extensive conversations in the public and with staff about routes for where the servicing will come. This is the other schedule that will be adopted, and this schedule, Schedule E, is the detailed planning areas. The area outlined in yellow in this case is Black Bear Ridge Village, and this is where the requirement for that OPA comes in. So before any new development, this is what Policy 471 is, any new development has to have a secondary plan that is adopted as an OPA. And so that's what main part of what we want to talk about today, and then hopefully move this forward for an approval. So the proposed amendments, this is the main one here. This is the structure plan. So for the OPA, you'll hear me say OPA or you hear me say secondary plan. They're the same thing in this case. And so as was talked about, the purpose of that is for guiding the development and the implementation of that MZO over the next 20 to 30 years. And so it's got policies that will look at several of the structuring elements. It will also have the design principles and the overall vision, and a number of things, policies for staff to utilize as each of these applications come forward. As you heard, there's a draft plan in for phase 1. There's going to be multiple phases to this site, and as those come forward, this document will help guide staff to ensure that we are trying to create a complete community and we're following that vision, the vision that council also adopted when we brought forward the MZO originally. These are the different components. It's a lot to get through. I won't talk about all of them. I'm going to talk about some of those in the next few slides. But the essential outline here is that you have the purpose of the report, the design principles, the structures of the different elements that make up this structure plan or the secondary plan, and then the phasing and transportation and general development policies that follow. And this will end up being a city document. It will be an OP, in your OP. The principles, which have been the same principles from the very beginning. Our client has always looked at this site as a very unique landscape, and so minimizing the impact on the existing land through a light touch approach has been the focus from the very beginning. And so the majority of the lands, almost half of them, are remaining as environmental. They are not being touched, and there are some areas where that's actually being enhanced and even growing. So the light touch approach is looking at different ways for construction and the building materials themselves, the architectural design, to be able to maintain that character, because that's one of the key elements, key features of the site. But in saying that, number two is to be able to provide a variety of housing types and different character. And this is part of that complete community. There are permissions for single detached all the way up to low-rise apartments, and our hope is that as the market presents itself over time, there will be opportunities from phase one all the way through to phase three for apartment buildings for different household incomes, different users, perhaps seniors housing as well. So it's not just single detached, it's not just big lots. It's meant to have a variety of people that are attending the site and living there as well. The third is to create a year-round activities and programming. I think that goes without saying. We have the golf course that's already there. It's almost 3 season. And then outside of that, we have the snowmobile trail. There's lots of opportunities with trails in the woods. There's opportunities for recreation on the water. So there are several different ways that this site can be activated, but we want it to be year-round. We don't want this to just be a summer community and people don't live there or don't attend there. We want it to be year-round. And then the final principle is how to implement sustainable and passive design solutions to essentially address climate change and also, as we see, we're in a bit of a heat wave even right now, to be able to lessen the load on all of our services and the electrical system as well. So that is going to be one of the implementation items that comes through with the draft plans as we move forward. And I apologize if I'm whipping through this far too quickly, but I'm hoping there will be questions. So these are the structuring elements. I'll touch on this quickly and then probably leave the majority for questions after this. So the structure plan, there are 3 main structuring elements. There's the Black Bear Ridge Village, which is all the yellow, the dark green, which is the natural heritage system, and the light green, which is the golf course. And essentially that is the 3 main land use categories that make up the entire site. In the Black Bear Ridge Village, that is what allows for all those different types of development uses from the residential, the commercial, and so on. The natural will have some recreational and passive, and obviously the golf course itself is where the focus of all the golf course uses will be. But then what makes this the structured plan is the various activity nodes and the connections between those. We have 3 different categories and 4 nodes altogether. I'll start with the mixed-use nodes. Does the cursor? Oh, perfect. Okay. So the cursor down here just shows you where the first mixed-use node is, and it would follow the existing road that if you've traveled up to the golf course, this is the road that brings you to the top where the clubhouse is. This street is envisioned to be like a commercial main street, catering probably for the most part to the visitors for the golf course, but also putting in daily amenities and services for the residents that are going to be in this yellow area on the south. And this leads to where this purple circle is, which is the golf course resort node. The second, and I'll touch on that in a second, the second mixed-use node is up here, and this one is going to be more focused on the next phase of development, where the residents will be have their own smaller village to the north, and this is where, again, in the mixed-use area, you'll have retail, restaurants, banks, other service, and community amenities, and then further to the north is the river resort node, which, again, in these 2 resort nodes, you'll have more of the resort accommodations, so hotels, motels, operated mainly by the ownership group, and other activities there on Moira River, which is at the top. There will be activities down at the waterfront as well in that node. So as part of this structure, we've looked at the site and we wanted to create destinations at each of these nodes, these hubs. And so there's a collector road network that is high level proposed, this gray dash line, that would then connect to all of those nodes, bringing all the residents that are there and any of the visitors to the site directly to those activity centers. There are a number of special policy overlays. Those areas either relate, this one here on the north, relates to some future studies on the floodplain. Most of this, as we understand, is due to grading. So if there is an opportunity up here to develop anywhere in this floodplain, the majority of it is already environmental, then this can be explored through other flood mitigation measures. But if not, Quinty's already noted this as something that will need to be studied and approved by them. But there is opportunity there, and that's why there's an overlay. And there are a couple of other parts where there is very specific sensitivities for that light touch approach. And so we've created special designations, and they're inside of this policy document as well, that sort of identify the right approaches to take for future development, because they're not within the phase one, for future development to consider. Okay, that was a lot. This is the active transportation. So as I mentioned, this is a conceptual network that shows on-road in the blue and off-road in the sort of purple, and I know this is all quite small. But these are conceptual routes for active transportation. So this would be cycling paths on the road, sidewalks, multi-use paths, off-road trails that would connect. We want to utilize the hydro corridor for a main north-south connection through that would have opportunities for small parkettes off of those, just again to activate that. So there's, as you can see, a comprehensive network that is possible on this site. And again, this would be a schedule for staff to review to ensure that future development is trying to take these items into account. And lastly, this is the phasing, and this is high level phasing. In each of these, there will be sub-phases. For instance, in the pink at the bottom, this is phase one. It's a very large area, but it's because it incorporates the golf course, which is the majority of this. But these phases are generally around a 10-year phase, just based on market absorption and what can be constructed in that time. And so likely each of these phases will have 1 to 2 year, 1 to 5 year sub-phases that will be for construction. But these is generally what we're looking at for sort of the 3 distinct neighborhoods. And this is the rounding out of that zoning bylaw. So you can see they are very, very small fragments, and they exist mainly along where the golf course is. There are golf holes and there is wetlands that are in the middle, but through our detailed analysis, there are sort of opportunities to round out these edges. And this one here was just captured, I think at the time differently. I don't know, this was in the official plan previously, but it is not an environmental area or wetland that's here. And so that's been part of the EIS, and so that's available for development. The majority of that is within the golf course already. So it simply is just going to be non-developed land other than for the golf course and where the hydro corridor is, just for reference. Okay, so appreciate you listening to me. That was quite a bit of information dumped on you all at once, but happy to answer any questions you have specifically. And I can flip through to any of those slides if you want me to pull those up again.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions from committee members? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to the proposed official plan amendment Schedule A page. Mm-hmm. In the River Resort node, there is currently a structure there.
Yes.
Very Frank Lloyd Wright kind of building. Mm-hmm. Is the intent to be to retain that building or to do a destruction and rebuild around it?
So the intent is to make sure that it's structurally sound, but to bring that back, and that would be the focus of that river resort. So whatever capacity that can be salvaged and maintained and then enhanced with either a campus or something around it, that I understand is our client's hope. There hasn't been, it's a future phase for now, but yes, that is being evaluated and that's the hope.
Okay. And then my second question, and I want to go back to the area on the same page where it's marked as environmental land, and the proposed draft plan of subdivision sort of works around that. Is the and I recognize it's a wetland. Is the intent to keep it in its natural state or eventually build? I wanted to make sure I had understood what you'd said.
Okay, yes. So what I believe you're looking at is this dark gray that's
Yes.
right here. Yes.
Yeah.
So that spot is, you can kind of see this, the map overlay is almost the same.
Yes.
You can see that it's actually almost entirely within the golf course, So it would actually just be remaining as is.
As is,
Yes,
perfect.
as the
Okay.
golf course. There is the hydro corridor that it also overlaps, but again, that's going to remain as is. We can't develop under there other than a trail or something to activate for that, but no development.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from committee members? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks for the update tonight. So it's been 3 years. I think it was first trip to council was 2022, 2021. We heard about it. Just the investment itself, it almost seems too big, but I guess if you build it, they will come. 1.5 billion was the projected amount for this development. Is that still in around that neck of the woods with construction costs going up?
That was the economic benefits. That wasn't necessarily strictly the cost, the 1.5 billion. That was what it was going to generate as an economic impact.
Okay.
The costs of the servicing are all being evaluated right now. That's part of that JLR study that I spoke of. So that's still in the works. But it's going to have to be built in phases. And so no, the 3,000 units is not going to happen all in one go. And so how does that get built and what sort of stages? That's part of what we need to explore from the JLR report, and then moving forward to actually implement it with the phase 1 draft plan.
In a perfect world, when do you see, if everything was to line for this development, when do you see the shovel in the ground and things are starting to change at Black Bear?
So what I would personally hope is that if this moves forward for council approval this year, there's the servicing aspect first. So shovels in the ground at Black Bear for the residential component is going to have to come after that or at the same time so that when the services arrive. So we do have to go through a lengthy, detailed design process, selecting that alternative route, so those 4, and bringing it up there. And that may take another year of going through that process and then getting into the approvals, or getting into the tendering, rather, of that approval. But there are other opportunities on the site that don't require that servicing, so other activation of the golf course and the resort aspect of it. So there are little things that we can do without major need for infrastructure, major infrastructure there, that we can utilize, and we're exploring those. So you might see shovels in the ground more so related to the golf course and to help generate the activity and the interest. And then the residential component would have to follow in the next couple of years as we wait for the services.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from committee members? No? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the application? I'll ask again. This is a public meeting, so it is an opportunity to raise any questions or concerns. Staff will make note of those as this gets evaluated over time. Yeah, please come forward, and the microphone is activated there, so if you can just state your name, and the floor is yours.
Hi, community. I've never been here before, so.
That's okay.
Jen Morrison. I live right beside where they have their Airbnb, and I'm just curious with the plan, what the idea of where they're going to bring the construction up through, and if they're looking at putting it right beside my house. That's my main concern, is the amount of people and things that are coming up in the area and where they're going to be bringing it in from.
Okay, we're a long ways, we're
yeah.
a long ways away from that, and we're not even, and you'll hear a couple of motions that'll get moved tonight, but that's not moving this along other than back to staff. But I'm gonna relay it over to staff, and they can at least give you an indication of what would possibly be mitigated through site plan when it gets to that phase, and that's way down the road in terms of what has to be.
No idea.
That's
how long
okay.
this kind of thing
This
takes.
is why we're having a public meeting, for this very reason. Staff, please.
Certainly, yes, through the chair. Thank you for your question. Yeah, at this point, we're, I guess that's the sort of thing that would be looked at through the plan of subdivision process in terms of construction accesses and things like that would need to be considered when it comes down to the eventual registration of the subdivision phase. When that happens, staff generally looks at the least obtrusive way to get onto the property and any mitigation measures that can be implemented, be it fencing or setbacks from properties, things like that. But if you'd like to leave your name as an interested party there, we can certainly keep you informed on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak on the application? Yeah.
Chris Hayes, we live at 574 Harmony Road. My major concern is what is going to happen with the traffic load and how you're going to deal with it. And as the council, before you even allow this to go forward, you need to know about the traffic, because I don't know where you're going to get the extra land from if you have to put a turning lane in or expand the lanes or do something, because we are directly in opposite where one of the main roads come out, and I see that being a problem unless you take into consideration the traffic flow on that road with this application going forward.
Okay, there's
Right.
a traffic impact study. If folks go on the city's website, all of the background studies that are...
I have them
Okay,
all.
perfect. So I'm going to refer you over to staff, and if they could at least give a preliminary response. Again, this is going to be reviewed in detail,
Sure.
but for fairness for coming out, I'll refer this to staff.
Sure, thank you through the chair. So yes, so as Chair Carr had mentioned, that the TIS is on the website, is attached to the planning application for your review. It is also going under a thorough peer review process as well. So all of that in terms of extra lanes, if they're needed, that's all part of the review. And then of course, anything that is determined needed will be conditioned appropriately as it goes through.
Okay, so if you, in fact, you've done a study, or have you not done a study on the traffic flow? Because my concern is, if you go ahead without knowing the traffic flow that's going to affect that road, how can you allow the development to go ahead? Because you need to know what's happening on the road before you decide to build, correct?
Thank you through the chair. So yes, so as part of the TIS, including this one, they look at the existing volumes and the existing traffic that's there, and then look at what's generated through accepted engineering practices and measures to estimate trips, the future trips, and then from that, then the consultant, the author that made that report will propose recommendations, which may include extra lanes to account for the future. So it does look at what the baseline is today. It gets analyzed at that level, and then they project the new traffic, add it together, and recommendations are informed on that level, existing plus the new traffic that's projected.
Okay. And I have seen the plans that you believe you're going to run the sewer across Harmony Road. Now, before you run that major line across Harmony Road, you're going to know about all the roadworks you need to do, whether it's the drainage, whether you're going to have to move things around. You should know that for these gentlemen to go forward before you accept their application. Because I don't get it. If you're going to put a very large main across, they're allowing for it to service the whole area. You're not going to run two sewer lines. You're going to run one sewer line, and that is done before you do anything, because you're going to be building the roads on top of it, and the waste catchment basins, and probably street lighting and sidewalks.
If I could, the underground infrastructure is the critical piece to everything else that occurs.
Exactly.
I'll just refer it over to Director Ashton for some comments.
Yeah, so the study we have now from JLR is high level, and so proceeds forward, it'll be detailed design. So those detailed designs, like any other engineering project in the city, will sort of look at what you're talking about, so it'll address those concerns. So basically, it'll function properly before it's...
I have no doubt it'll function properly. I'm just concerned that we don't have that information before these gentlemen get the approval, because once they get the approval, it's very hard to pull it back.
So just for clarification, there's no approvals today. Like I said, you're going to hear a couple of motions. This portion of the meeting, we're going to refer to the Planning Advisory Committee, which will happen tonight. And then there's a motion in the agenda that'll refer it back to staff for a thorough review. So we have the preliminary infrastructure report now, but then it has to go to detailed design. At the same time, in the staff report, it refers to the fact that Watson and Associates are currently reviewing it from an economic perspective, because there's costs associated with that infrastructure. So that's going to be a determining factor as well, as the cost associated with the infrastructure that has to go north, because you're talking water towers and all the rest of it. So like any other project in the city, we're not going to do anything above ground until we know what we're doing underground, so that we only do it once if it's approved.
Okay.
And so those infrastructures reports are still being reviewed. This is an opportunity for public input. I would suggest to yourself and others to make sure you leave your name and an email address or contact information with that at the podium, so that you can be kept apprised. And if there's specific questions that you want to be kept apprised of, then the planning staff will certainly do that. Communication is critical throughout this entire process, but we are at step one of hundreds or thousands of steps to get to that point. But yes, there's no approvals coming anytime soon because of the infrastructure we require underground.
Okay, thank you. Answered very well.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the application? Yeah, if you'd like to come forward and state your name.
I'm just really curious about our taxes. Like, our taxes are gonna go through the roof to cover the course. We know it is, like, infrastructure, I know is a huge thing, it's a popular word with council. But we're gonna be the ones that end up paying for it, the ones along Harmony Road. Like, I live right across from Black Bear.
I'm going to refer to, sorry, go ahead.
No, it just makes me really, really nervous about, I understand what they want to do, it's business, but our taxes are going to go through the roof, and there's probably a good chance that a lot of people can't afford to carry on there.
Okay, I'm going to refer that to Director Ashton and to get some comments back on that one.
So now that we have the JLR study that outlines sort of at a high level the infrastructure required to service this, right now we have engaged Watson and Associates economists. They're actually the same consulting firm that does our development charges for the city. So they're doing a fiscal impact analysis, and they're going to evaluate the development's effect on municipal resources, so and financing strategies that are available. So I think the development charge fundamental is new growth pays for the new infrastructure required for it. Now, obviously, Harmony Road, the school, will want to sort of tap in, so they'll be responsible if they want to tap into that infrastructure to contribute to it. But generally, new growth pays for the new infrastructure that's required to service it is the principle.
Sorry, who does?
New growth.
New growth. So,
Developers
Oh,
will
okay,
pay.
so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you're just sort of there and you don't have a requirement for services, then you're good.
okay.
so just to follow up on that, taxes don't pay for water and sewer. Any of that is development charges or existing customers. And out in that area, we have no customers for water and wastewater. So your property taxes do not contribute to water and sewer. Those are separate revenue streams, separate expenditures. They don't ever mix. So if you see infrastructure being done somewhere in the city, water pipes, if you're not a customer or it's not related to a particular growth area per se, the taxes aren't impacted directly. And the development charges is the whole concept of growth paying for growth.
So everybody will be able to stay on septic? You're not going to force us?
And no, and the bylaw was recently changed, that.
I know you worked on that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and so there's no obligation to hook up. The option is there if and when service comes, but there is no obligation, no penalty. It's your choice.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other, yep, if you'd like to come forward, state your name, and you have the floor.
Well, Pat Spice, we're on Homan Road, so Cyber. But a follow-up to the tax question that hadn't really occurred to me before. When I was going through the document searching Homan Road, I can see that I might still be around to see the traffic light go in at the end of Homan Road. Would be nice to live that long. But at points along Harmony Road, where there's the development that requires streetlights and such, at that point, does that come to council and we might find out in 10, 15 years that something about our tax rates change because now we're more service with streetlights? And I know on Homan Road, we've been worried about sidewalks and streetlights and stuff that we love living without. And so I'd forgotten about that because that's not a concern for decades. But having listened to this, I thought, gee, with people along Harmony, earlier than 30 years, there's going to be some streetlights and stuff. Does that change anything about how taxes are done? So an education question.
I'll refer that to staff. I can answer, but
I
they
know.
get paid to answer, so.
Sorry, so you live on the other side of the street, basically, from this development?
No.
Homan.
As I said, it's more of a general tax question. I'm on Homan Road.
Okay.
Where we're just more concerned about the construction vehicles and stuff over time. So that aside, for people that are in general public, some of them I'm in touch with, that are on Harmony, at some point, if things start going in like streetlights and stuff like that, does that change? Like where we are Ward 2 and we're a different tax rate than in the city, does that start without being on water and well?
So I'm not part of the finance department, so I should, but my assumption would be that you're a Ward 2 resident, so you would still be subject to Ward 2 tax system.
Right, and you wouldn't be extra taxes just because of some of these things.
Because of this is sort of a settlement area that's kind of defined specifically, so.
Can I ask a secondary question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, not related. So when you're looking at the roads and where they go and you're, at some point there could be encroachment on our properties, like, 10, 20, 30 years. Where there's places, because I have visual access to one, that farmhouse, decades old farmhouse, the amount that the city's technically allowed from the road, you can't get there without taking out the front side of their house. Is that something that is in later iterations to look at?
Typically, when the city's looking at infrastructure expansion, then there's possibly property acquisition required.
Yeah.
I'll point to an example of the Sydney Street construction that occurred, Bell Boulevard, Sydney and Tracy. There was some property acquisitions along there for the purpose of lane expansions. So it does happen, but that's after we're well into the technical side. We know exactly where things are going to go, and we're ready to put shovels in the ground. Basically, it's property acquisition is just before, but I'll get staff to jump in on that one as well. Director Ashton.
Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, you're saying if there's a road widening, so basically, if there's road widening available and it's required from an engineering perspective, if there isn't that widening available, so the engineering section will sort of look at alternatives, just perhaps not widening the road sort of idea as an option as well. So it's not just one specific function. They don't go and say, we need this
No,
much.
I was just curious how that's looked at. Anyways, I won't hold you up. Thank you.
And your question regarding street lighting, so if you're in an urban area and you have street lighting, on $250,000 of assessment, street lighting will cost you $2.42 for the year.
No coffee. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak to the application? I'll ask a second time. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. And a third time. And again, I'd encourage you at the very least to sign your name to the document on the podium so that you can be kept apprised. Okay. So with that, I have a resolution that the zoning amendment applications number PLOZA 2025-0100 and PLOZA 0101 be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee for consideration. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 5.3, notice of public meeting, official plan amendment to amend and update policies in accordance with the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan and the Planning Act. Applicant is the City of Belleville. File number is PLOPA 2025-0139. If staff would present the application, please.
Good evening, committee. So today here we have a city-initiated application that proposes to amend the official plan. This would be to update the plan in accordance with the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan and the Planning Act. These changes can be included in 3 brackets, incorporating parkland classifications, providing clarity on parkland dedication rates and suitability of land, administrative changes to reference and implement the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan. These amendments would modernize the official plan policies and enable greater efficiency in land use decisions, as well as set up the policy foundation for a future update to the Parkland Dedication Bylaw. Today, we've received comments from the Quinte Home Builders Association, which has been circulated to the committee and will be considered. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? No? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone wishing to speak to this application? Second time? Third time? Okay. Resolution that the official plan amendment to amend and update policies in accordance with the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan and the Planning Act be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Wright Miller, second by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 5.4, notice of public meeting, official plan amendment to establish enabling policy to allow delegation of authority for minor rezonings. Applicant is the City of Belleville. File number is PLOPA 2025-0138. If staff could present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again. Provincial Bill 13 introduced legislative changes aiming to reduce red tape and help streamline the planning process by providing new discretionary authority to delegate planning decisions for minor rezonings, but subject to local official plan policies that define eligible matters. As such, this city-initiated application proposes to amend the official plan to establish enabling policy for delegation of authority for minor rezonings. This application would define matters that would be considered minor. Despite this, delegated matters would still be subject to the regular statutory requirements of the Planning Act, including public circulation, notice signs, appeal periods, and so on. These amendments would essentially add a caveat into the typical workflow for the committee as ongoings, and if there's something that's relatively minor, it can go to staff for approval. However, sorry, let me go back to this. If the official plan amendment application is passed and in the future and implemented through a future bylaw, eligible matters that receive 0 or no public feedback during the statutory notice period would be could be delegated to staff. However, if feedback is received, an application would resume its normal workflow and be heard at a public hearing. At this time, no comments have been received from members of the public. Lastly, staff recommend this application for immediate approval to fulfill the goals of the city's housing action plan for expediting the development process. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from community members? Okay, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak to this application? Second time, third time. Resolution of the official plan amendment to allow delegation of authority for minor rezonings be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee meeting for consideration. Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to the Plan Advisory Committee meeting, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, reading and confirmation of the minutes, resolution that the minutes of the Plan Advisory Committee meeting held on June 2nd, 2025 be approved. Councillor Kelly and Mr. Fenton, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There's no deputations. Correspondence, resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee receive the correspondence for information. Moved by Ms. Van Dyke, seconded by Mr. Fenton. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Referrals from the public meeting. 6.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for a proposed amendment or proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 449 and 501 Harmony Road and 432 Homan Road, City of Belleville. Owner is Black Bear Ridge Limited Partnership by its general partner, Black Bear Ridge GP Incorporated and 449 Harmony Road Incorporated. Agent is the Pecuniary Group, and the file number is PLOZA 2025-0100 and PLOZA 2025-0101. Resolution reads that report number APS-2025-26 dated June 27th, 2025 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 449 and 501 Harmony Road and 432 Homan Road, City of Belleville, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Questions or comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. My question is related to the traffic impact study. So whichever is the appropriate staff member to respond to that. It's related to the breadth of the traffic impact study, which involves a number of provincially owned roads, Highway 62, Highway 37. There's a number of terms on there. Does the MZO, having been approved by the province, give us any opportunity to expedite the MTO's input to these? Because as we are aware, the MTO often takes a very long time to respond to anything that impacts the provincial roads. So does the MZO in itself actually give us a bit more teeth?
Okay, thank you. Refer that to staff.
So they did get back to us, and they have no comments, is my understanding, because it's outside of their jurisdiction. So they're good.
Let's get some clarification though. Councillor Brown's comments were in reference to the fact that the traffic study makes some recommendations with respect to improvements.
Yeah. So I think so part of that to move it forward will be a condition that because the TIS is still getting peer reviewed. So we would come back with conditions within the plan of subdivision that the MTO would be have to be satisfied in terms of the road improvements that are required to keep this project moving forward. So, but in terms of whether their final sign off, they're quick on that. Hopefully, they seem to be very customer service oriented as of late. So we're hoping that trend continues.
If I may, then a follow-up question. So given there's a number of intersection changes along both 62 and 37, whose responsibility for the financial impact of those intersection changes on the provincial highways?
We would have to do a conversation, have a discussion with MTO to see if those were sort of planned improvements, or whether they're part of a bigger project, or the developer would sort of have to do a contribution towards the actual project. And then that would be part of our financial impact study that Watson and Associates are undertaking. so we can sort of come back with a full picture.
And then my third and final question as it relates to the impact study, and you may not have an answer to this, but could Black Bear Ridge Village move ahead, the actual draft plan of subdivision, if some of those areas within 62 and 37 and the intersection changes had not yet moved forward? You want me to say that again, Stephen?
So you're saying, so I guess it would depend at, will they sort of require certain things at certain times? And I think that is in the TIS where at certain points of timelines when those improvements are. So they usually regulate through sort of their permitting system as well, so.
And I think the reason for my question related to that was a member of the public has addressed it, which is many of those intersection changes, both along Harmony, but in particular along 62 and 37, will require adding turn lanes that will require the road being widened. So I guess the question really is around what comes first, the horse or the cart. Could we move the horse being I'm sorry, Alex, I'm not calling the subdivision a horse, but if we want to move it forward, Black Bear Ridge, in terms of some of the initial phase 1, for instance, what has to come first, the intersection changes or the development itself?
Okay, so I think with our peer review that's going on, we'll provide sort of get the peer review to provide clarification on that so that it's easier to understand sort of thing. So let the peer review process occur that's ongoing. So we basically, the TIS that was submitted is being peer reviewed. So we'll just provide clarification on those timelines. Sometimes engineering consultants get very technical, and so sometimes it's better to state it in a very simple way. So I think we'll make sure that that comes back to as part of the overall review or a part of the overall recommendations.
Because admittedly, and this is just a comment, when I reviewed the TIS report, and I went there first because I knew it was a concern with the residents, I was actually quite surprised by the breadth of what was covered within that in terms of intersection changes and road changes and signalization well beyond what I would have expected in close proximity, what we would normally encounter. So pleasantly surprised that it went broader, but it was actually quite eye-opening how much would have to change with the addition of 3,000 houses.
Yeah, and that's over the full build-out, so I think it would probably be good if we could get the consultant to sort of provide clarification through the peer, or we can report and just provide it a little simply stated, I guess, is probably the better way to put it. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from committee members? Okay, I've got just a couple. Director Ashton, just perhaps because of the size of the full development over the course of 3 decades, this is a big endeavor. Can you give us examples of other secondary plans the city has developed in the past and where they are now, and an idea of how long those have built out? And I know a few of those secondary plans predate your time here, but I know you're familiar with some of them. Just to get an idea as the fact that this is atypical of what the Planning and Advisory Committee would see on a regular basis.
Well, I think to start with, and it's not a Belleville example, but I think our former city engineer, Ray Ford, referred to Black Bear Ridge as being Wellington, before the expansion, sort of it's the size of that. So I think that's probably an easy way to think of it. But we're looking at the Potter's Creek, and that was, how many houses do we have in those phases, current phases is, I want to say 1,500, we're kind of putting everyone on. But the can build out up to today sort of thing for the phases to 9.
Oh, I know it was 15 phases.
Yeah.
9 phases, but I think they're 10, 11, 12, yeah, so there are quite a few phases proposed. I don't recall the number of units, though. Was
But
it
built to date is about
850
1,200
or-
units or 1,500 units.
At most, yeah.
12 to 1,500 is the Potter's Creek currently built out, and that's been over 10,
15 years?
15 years. The next phase will be Potter's, call it Potter's north to Moira, and then further up, so that'll be, I think, another 9,000 homes. The secondary plans, that would be something that, I don't know if we have that many secondary plans that, or sort of master communities like that. So this is kind of unique in a way.
Yeah, I guess 25 years ago, the Canafton secondary plan was drawn out, and that continues even to today in terms of the Riverstone. So just an example of these don't come along too often, but when they do, it's about guiding over the course of several decades.
Yeah, and I think the difference between the Canafton and this one is, this is before my time, but there was sort of that, nothing's going to be no more further. There was one subdivision, and someone said there's going to be nothing further developed in subdivisions past this subdivision, and it proved wrong. So I think this is great where there is if there is an opportunity to do a master plan community like this and it be a complete community, this is definitely the way to move forward with development of this scale.
And my next question, Director Ashton, pertains to servicing, and we do see the master servicing study that's there, and it's in its preliminary fashion. Watson and Associates is currently reviewing the fiscal impact, and that gets into the development charges. When is it anticipated that Watson's will complete that work? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we have a concept, but it comes down to dollars and cents. And we all like to see that growth pays for growth, but to get an idea, because I think that infrastructure, and it was said by the initial presenter that infrastructure is critical to go forward. So without seeing the cost and then the detailed design, those are the two keys really before this thing moves forward. So do you have an idea when Watson may have their report back?
It is the fall, I believe. This application is going to be dependent upon a lot of information and reviews and studies and coming back to us. So obviously we know that it's important to council that there's a full understanding of the financial impact or servicing cost options, but we anticipate in the fall that they'll be back to us. They're also doing our development charge study at the same time, but this will likely be separate from that exercise.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Seeing none, I got a resolution on the floor. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 6.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 136 Townsend Road, City of Belleville. Owner is Donnandale Farms. File number is PLZBA 2025-0128. Resolution reads that report number APS-2025-27 dated July 7th, 2025 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 136 Townsend Road, City of Belleville be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Ms. Van Dyke. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.3, an official plan amendment to establish enabling policy to allow delegation of authority for minor rezonings. Applicant is City of Belleville. File number is PLOZA 2025-0138. Resolution reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that application PLOPA 2025-0138 to amend the official plan as amended be approved as follows: that the official plan as amended be amended as proposed through the city-initiated amendment outlined in Report APS-2025-28, consisting of text changes to establish enabling policy for delegation of authority for minor rezonings. Moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any questions or comments? Mr. Baltutis.
Through the chair, can you give me an example of what a minor rezoning would be?
Staff?
For example, through the chair. For example, a surplus dwelling. A severance on an agricultural parcel to sever off the farmhouse from the remaining farmlands to consolidate them. One thing I'll add through the chair is that any matters that are specifically defined in this official plan amendment is only the scope that would be able to be delegated. Any otherwise would have to return to this committee to approve more items. But anything that is within the bylaw amendment that is in the draft are the only things that we could consider as delegatable. Back to you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. 6.4, an official plan amendment to amend and update policies in accordance with the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan and the Planning Act. Applicant is the City of Belleville. File number is PLOPA 2025-0139. Resolution reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that application PLOPA 2025-0139 to amend the official plan as amended be approved as follows: that the official plan as amended be amended as proposed through the city-initiated amendment as outlined in Report APS-2025-29, consisting of text changes to amend and update policies in accordance with the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan and the Planning Act. Moved by Mr. Baltutis, seconded by Mr. Jennings. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm actually going to recommend a tabling motion to refer this back to staff. We did receive a correspondence from the Quinte Home Builders Association, and I would like to see staff have an opportunity to address that formally in a report back to us, as well as have Transportation and Operational Services make comment on it, as well as some of the parklands, and I would like examples of some of the parklands that they have received in the past, and then issues that they may have run into in terms of trying to develop the parkland. I think we should be informed a little bit on some of those operational concerns before we proceed to council. So I'll make that tabling motion. There's Councillor Brown, seconder. There's no debate on a tabling motion. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. No reports, information matters. 8.1 official plan and zoning bylaw amendment report monitoring report. Resolution is the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report dated July 2025 be received. Moved by Mr. Fenton, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. General business. I see nothing. Motion to adjourn at 6:39. Mr. Fenton and Ms. Van Dyke, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.